Hello, I'm Nick Park from Evangelical Alliance Ireland, and this is our weekly message. It's Friday, but Sunday is coming. And I am delighted today to be joined by David Turner from Church in Chains. David, you're very welcomed.
Thank you very much indeed, Nick. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Now, David, the reason I wanted to talk with you today on this interview is that obviously we're hearing a lot about what is happening in Nigeria, about persecution against the Christians there. And again, I think this is something where we've got a real connection in Ireland because I'd say there's very few churches in Ireland at this point that don't have at least one Nigerian family within the church membership. So I wonder, could you give us a bit of a background? I mean, I know we hear on the news, we hear about religious conflict and ethnic conflict. So maybe you could give us your take on, first of all, on what's happening with the Fulani herdsmen in the north of the country.
Yes, indeed. Well, rather than simply give you my take, I suppose our job always in Church in Chains is to seek to reflect the voice that's coming out from Nigeria. So the take I'm giving you is based on my contact with Nigerian Christians in Nigeria, and
Yeah.
particularly in the Middle Belt region. So, for a number of years, Christians in the Middle Belt region have seen increasing persecution, and that's been manifest in villages being attacked and razed to the ground, in churches being attacked, in pastors being killed, in Christian communities having to become displaced people. So, this has been ongoing for quite some time.
Now
Um,
that can we just, for those that don't know, the north of Nigeria is predominantly Muslim, the
yes.
south is predominantly Christian, and then the middle belt is the bit in between where the interface and the mix occurs more.
Yes, yes, indeed. And sometimes it's called North Central because its identity is more linked to the north than to
Mhm.
the south. But it is very much a mixed community of a number of states across that region. And as I say, persecution of Christians has been ongoing for some years. You mentioned that often it's confusing to know, is it religious conflict between two groups? Is it one group persecuting another group? Are there ethnic elements to this? Are there issues relating to climate change and conflict over resources? And all of those things are probably correct. It's a complicated picture, but it's very clear when uh, attackers that are armed with heavy artillery, which they have got from terrorist groups like Boko Haram in the far north,
Mhm.
when they attack a predominantly Christian village, and they go through killing people, setting houses on fire, and they are chanting Allahu Akbar. It's very clear what the motivation is there. And I think it's very important that that is acknowledged. And of course, in recent weeks, President Trump has intervened on the issue, and that has led to much greater attention being placed on what's happening in Nigeria.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes you see some news organizations start present it just as ethnic conflict. But the violence there, I mean, it's pretty much one direction, is it? Or I mean, you don't have the Christians there attacking the Muslims.
No, indeed. And, it's unfortunate that sometimes in the mainstream media, it is described as a Christian Muslim conflict. And it's often used, the words are used in that order. So that gives a total misrepresentation. Christians are not attacking Muslims.
Mhm.
It's Muslim militants, and it's very important to say it's Muslim militants. It's not every Muslim. These communities often are mixed communities, and Christians and Muslims have lived safely and peacefully together. There have been intermarriages without any problem, and then the harmony is disrupted by these militants entering the picture. So, in more recent, maybe the last couple of months, it has escalated in terms of the number of people being kidnapped. And I suppose the most famous one, which has been on our screens, is the St. Mary's Catholic School in Niger State. And over 300 children kidnapped from that state. And like children aged from 4 up to 17 or 18, but the vast bulk of them primary school age children. I've seen a list of the names and the ages beside them listed by the Catholic diocese, and it's horrendous to think of 4, 5, 6, 7 year olds being taken away from the school that they were boarding, and obviously living in terrible conditions. And we call, and everybody is calling on the Nigerian government to rescue these children.
Now, those children getting kidnapped, that's very much Boko Haram that's doing that, isn't it? Because I know they've got
On this
conflict before.
occasion, they certainly have, but on this occasion, it's the Fulani militant
Okay.
groups.
Mhm.
I think they have copied Boko Haram's tactics, and a lot of these kidnappings are for ransom. And, some people have kind of said, well, there's no religious element to this at all because there have been kidnappings perpetrated in Muslim schools as well. But in this situation, it's very clear that the Catholic school was in an isolated region and it was targeted at the dead of night. And, vehicles were brought. I think there may have been minibuses brought. They knew what they were doing when they did this. So the parents of the children, of course, are distraught, and they're looking for answers. An advisor to the Nigerian president visited the community earlier this week, and his message was, all will be well and your children will be rescued. But, it's great to have words of reassurance. You would like to know how this is going to happen, and it was completely lacking in detail. So we continue to call for the Nigerian government to act on this. And, the fact that other world leaders are taking an interest in the situation is very encouraging from our point of view.
Now, I know that obviously the children being kidnapped gets a lot of publicity because that is such a horrific crime. Um, Now, but there are other kidnappings taking place. I saw one last week. I think a pastor had been kidnapped, and I think he was conducting a wedding, and the bride that was supposed to be getting married was kidnapped at the same time. And so these smaller scale kidnaps are seem to be becoming more frequent as well.
Yes, indeed. And, it's interesting. You're speaking about one church that was attacked, and you saw the pastor and indeed the bride and groom being taken away. There was another church where it's a small church, but it had a live stream feature. So the attack was live streamed.
Wow.
And I think 38 members of the church, they were all taken away. Now, they were rescued within a week or so, but that's been kind of completely overshadowed because of the big story about the school kidnapping. But just before I was speaking to you, I was just looking back at the report that I got this week from our partner, Mark Lipto, in the Stephanus Foundation. And I get a weekly report from Mark.
Mhm.
And this week's report had individual summaries of attacks that had occurred in 11 states in the Middle Belt region of Nigeria. So, we're thankful that the Nigerian government has declared a national emergency in relation to this security. They have spoken about the fact they're going to hire 20,000 extra police and army folk, and it is true that the Nigerian army has made some inroads into what's going on, but so much more needs to be done, and the Nigerian government really needs to commit its resources to resolving this problem, because surely every state's first duty is to protect its citizens.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean 20,000, to be honest, I'm thinking that sounds a lot, but I've been to the Middle Belt. I've been worked in Benue State there. We had a project
Right?
digging wells in some very isolated communities, And to be honest, knowing the landscape and the distances traveled and everything else, 20,000 actually isn't an awful lot of resources to protect the people there. It's going to take a lot more than that.
Yes, yes, indeed. But at least it's a start. And I think back just to last year when I went to the Nigerian embassy, and this time in Dublin, and this time we were talking about an attack in which over 200 people had been killed. This was at Christmas of 2023. The meeting at the embassy was in spring 2024, and the attack had been documented. The names of the victims were there. We presented this to the Nigerian embassy. To their credit, they received us and they listened to us and they were courteous to us. But it was as if the response there was, we will look into this. And this is a complicated situation. And again, we got the narrative that we were talking about right at the start of this interview about ethnic conflict, and it's not a religious conflict, and the Nigerian government fully supports freedom of religion. Um, I had to say, as courteously as I could in that diplomatic situation, um, we don't question that the Nigerian government supports freedom of religion. What we do question is that it actively moves to enforce freedom of religion and ensure that everybody can have freedom of religion, because that wasn't the case in Plateau State, where that dreadful Christmas attack occurred. And, it's not the position at the moment. So the Nigerian government needs to step up and act.
Yeah. So David, obviously, a lot of people, Christians here, we're rightfully appalled at this. What can we do? Obviously, we can pray, and I'm not minimizing that at all. We're not saying, oh, well, we can't do anything else, so we have to pray. Prayer, I know, is so powerful. Um, so, what should we be praying for, and what else can we do apart from prayer?
Yes, indeed. As you said, and of course, we believe that prayer is the first thing that Christians should do. And it's the first thing that the persecuted church, whether it be in Nigeria or China or Eritrea or Iran, asks for, is prayer. Because to engage in prayer means that we kind of commit ourselves to it. We identify with those who are suffering. And that's what the scriptures encourage us to do. That's what Paul did when he was going around preaching and teaching, and he was encountering problems. As part of his letters, he said to people, remember my chains. So it's vital that Christians do pray. In terms of action, why not write a letter to the Nigerian ambassador in Dublin? It doesn't have to be full of details. Encourage people to go to Church and Chain's website. You can click on countries, click on Nigeria. You can find facts and figures there. But a simple letter saying, please protect the Christian community in Nigeria. Please take action to protect these innocent children who are being kidnapped. Um, that's all that's needed. And, if 5 letters are sent, that's good. If 10 letters are sent, it's even better. And, if people are writing to Nigerian embassies in Britain and France and Germany and the Netherlands and many other places, it all adds up. And, we have seen the cumulative effect of campaigns like that. Um, we work with a partner in Nigeria in supporting displaced Christian communities. So, if people want to contribute towards helping those who've been displaced, that's another way that people can help.
And people could help, presume that they can give through your website, churchandchains.ie. Yeah.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Okay. Look, David, thank you so much. I love the fact that I can give you hazy details about what we're going to be talking about, and you've got so much facts and figures and information at your fingertips. You're like a walking encyclopedia on the persecuted church. So thank you so much for bringing us that insight today.
You're very welcome indeed, Nick. I'm very much struck by the old children's chorus, you in your small corner and I in mine. I believe I've been called to this small corner, and I want to do my very best to serve the Lord in that corner.
Amen. And look, thank you as well for soldiering through today, because I know you had the power off. We'd thought it would be on again by now, and you're operating in failing light with the battery powered internet and everything else. And I think as we've been talking, your picture might have frozen once or twice, but your voice kept coming through loud and clear as it always does. So thank you so much, David.
Thank you very much indeed, Nick.
Okay, thanks. Thanks to David Turner. And as always, join us again next week for another edition of It Might Be Friday, but Sunday's coming. And we are just going to finish by putting up the contact details for the Nigerian Embassy in Ireland up on the screen. So if you just let the video run a few seconds more, you can jot that down, make a note of that, and you can contact them and send a letter to them about what's happening to Christians in Nigeria now. So God bless you in Jesus' name. I hope you enjoyed that interview with David Turner of Church in Chains. I've just finished editing it, and just before we upload it now onto our socials, I wanted to share something with you. EAI is working on your behalf, connecting, equipping and representing the Church in Ireland, providing resources and speaking into spaces to provide a God-focused perspective to strengthen churches and individual Christians here in our nation. And I'm here to ask you to join our mission. We're looking for 1,000 people who would help us by giving just a pinch more than the price of a cup of coffee every month. There's a QR code on your screen now, and by using that, or by setting up a direct debit with your bank, and our bank details are available on our website, would you consider committing to giving €5 per month? It's so important at a time like this to have the Christian perspective represented in the political and the social spheres. And when we work together, we're stronger. We can thrive together. Your generosity is needed to keep us moving forward. Just €5 per month, a pinch more than the price of a cup of coffee. And if you'd prefer to give some other way than by giving a regular monthly gift, then maybe send an email to office@evangelical.ie, and we'll get back to you. Can you tell us how you would like to help? But thank you for your support, thank you for your prayers, and thank you for your giving. Again, that QR code up on the screen now. We're looking for just a pinch more than a cup of coffee every month from 1,000 people to make a real difference in our nation.